Okay, so these tutorials are going to be, I call them like UnityBasics or something. So we're going to go over the basic fundamentals of building stuff inside of Unity, and these are primarily going to be all 2D projects. So if you fire up Unity, you'll end up at a screen something similar to this, and we're going to create a new project, and we'll click on disk and put it wherever you want to. I'm going to stick it in CPS 282. New folder, we will call this Unity Tutorials, and that works. And we'll say project one. This is images. So in this one, we're going to show you how to bring in images and build a scene in Unity, a 2D scene. And that's what this one is. And then we'll cover the rest of the topics in other videos. But this one is just primarily bringing in 2D images. So in the screen, we give us our name, our path, where it's going to go. We're going to click 2D. I'll turn off Unity Analytics because I don't need them. And if we were to add any asset packages, if we wanted to add them at the beginning, this is where we would do that. We're not going to do that for this stuff. We'll just start from scratch every time. So here's our project one images, our path. We got this click to 2D, and we will hit create project. And give it a sec, and it should show everything. I'm doing this on a Mac. If you're on a PC, it's going to be largely the same thing. So pretty much identical. Maybe some of the shortcuts might be slightly different, but for the most part, it's the same thing. Okay, so here's our Unity editor that we've got here, this IDE. And notice that, I've got this rectangle here, this white rectangle with the camera. If you've got something that looks like a horizon line, that means that when you created your project, you selected 3D instead of 2D. So if you don't have just like this gray background with a white rectangle, I would close your project and create it again. And make sure you select 2D. Otherwise, maybe some of this stuff won't make any sense. And just quickly to go over what we've got here. Over here on the left here, this is all the objects that are in our scene. Our scene is currently titled Untitled. Down here in the bottom, in this project tab, this is going to give us where all of our assets are. So this is where we're going to put everything that we could potentially use in our scene. And then this is the stuff up here that we're actually using. So we have to import stuff into here, and then to use it, we're going to drag it up into here. And then over here on the right is the inspector, and that's going to give us properties about different things that we have. Like, for example, we have our main camera. That's the only thing that we have right now. And here are the properties of the main camera. If I hit the play button, it'll show us our current scene as it exists. And right now, it's just blue. And with our camera selected, we can come, and I hate this blue color, so I always change it right away. We can click on the background, so my mouse is over here. If you click on the background, and this is the color, so I'm just going to drag it up and make it white. And then now if I hit play, our scene will actually run, and it'll be a white screen. So that's how you change some of the properties of things. You have different tabs up at the top, and if you're missing some of these tabs, if you don't have the same tabs that I have, you can go to Window, and then whatever tab that you're missing, you can just find it in here. But for right now, really the only two that we're going to need are scene and game. So scene is where we're going to do all our editing. Game is where you can sort of preview what it's going to look like, and then when you actually hit the play button, it will show you what it looks like. Right now we just got a white box, so it's not overly exciting. Other things to note is when you're editing your scene, make sure that this play button is not pressed. If it's pressed, you will be able to make changes, but as soon as you unpress it, all those changes will go away, and that's not very good. So always make sure that if you're editing, the play button is not pressed. Right now it's pressed, it's blue. It's not pressed, we're not running, so now I can edit my scene. Okay, so the whole point of this one is to show you how to bring in 2D images, and I am going to open up a folder here that has some pictures in it. So these are all from something called Glitch the Game, and Glitch the Game is a really great resource for 2D images. You can search for it. They're all in the public domain now, so you can use all of these things in whatever you're building, whatever advertising, whatever game, whatever it is, you can use these assets. And so I use them for examples a lot because they're easy for people to go out and find. So just search for Glitch the Game assets, and let's see. There we go. Just search for glitch the game assets and you'll find these things. Okay, so I'm just going to start building like a little landscape here. I didn't really, you know, prepare which images I was going to use. So I'm just going to go through some of these and start to build certain things. And you can take as much time as you want. But let's just say I want to build some of these cliffs, or how about this thing, cliff face? I'll drag this thing in. So if you want to use one of these images, any PNG, JPEG, whatever, you just drag it into your assets folder down here, and that will import it. And I was just going to go grab a few more things. I don't know, maybe any trees. Couple of these, maybe an exit sign. Again, it doesn't really matter what you're using or how you're using it, but this is just how you get images in. So yeah, first step is drag them down into your assets. And note, if I hit play, it's just going to be the same white screen we had before. And that's because we haven't placed any of these things. So in Unity, when you import things in 2D mode, they come in as sprites. And if you're in 3D mode, they'll come in as textures. So that's why it's important at the beginning to select that this is a 2D environment. Otherwise, everything, the defaults when you bring stuff in will be textures instead of sprites. And so then things will get all messed up. So assuming everybody did it correctly, now you can bring in your sprites. You can just drag them into your scene like this. And you can scale them however you want. I don't know, you can make a platform that goes all the way across if we want to. We can bring in some plants, this, more plants. Maybe we have a mountain in the background. Oops. And as you select objects, you can select them over here on the left, or you can select them just directly in the scene. But if you're having problems grabbing them because you have too many close together, you can come over here and just click on these things. The other thing is that as you have an object selected, up here are the different tools that you can kind of different edit modes that are available to you. For the most part, if you leave it on this one on the far right, you'll be able to drag stuff around and scale it and do whatever you want. But if you're only interested in moving, you can use this thing, this crosshairs, which will allow you just kind of a little bit easier to drag on an axis. If you just want to move it up or down or left or right, you can click on this one. But for the most part, I'm just going to have this thing selected. If you want to do rotations or whatever, you can click on these things. But I'll click on this one because for what we're doing, this is going to work out pretty good. Okay, so here we have this. And we have our mountain. Now our mountain that I wanted to put in the background is on top of everything. So we have the concept of ordering inside of Unity, your Z ordering or whatever you want to call it. And in Unity, when you have an object selected, over here on the right, it's going to have this order in layer. A higher number means it's more in front. So we'll leave this mountain as a background as a 0, but we can start bringing up some of these other things. And you can just type in numbers here. So if I want to make it a 2, that'll bring it up to the front. The other thing you can do is if you just hover your mouse over the word order and layer, you'll notice that it turns to 2 arrows, and you can click and slide left to right and make these numbers move. So if you just want to sort of scale it up easily without just typing in numbers because maybe you're not sure what to put in there, you can just drag and move it left and right. Okay, let me move up some of these plants. Oh, this is looking great. Very good. And then I want to rotate this thing around and make it look like a real, instead of a hanging plant, which is fine. I'm going to give it a different look and flip it around and see if we can make it look like a Christmas tree or something. And so in order to do that, I could go to this rotate section up here and start to rotate it like this. That works. And then I'll undo. So Command Z or Control Z is undo, just like everything else. So if you notice, as I was rotating it, these properties over here were changing. So let me do it again. So as I rotate, look at that Z rotation is changing as I do that. So instead of using the rotate thing, I could come over here with my object selected and I could change my Z rotation to like 90 or 180. And there we go. So now it's exact. Then I can position it around. So that looks pretty good. It's the Z order of this thing I have right now because I was just goofing around is 56. The Z order of this thing is 20, so that means this tree is always going to be in front of everything. That's fine. maybe this one, we want to put it between the rock, the background, which is at 0, and this is at 20. That's good. Maybe we could just scale it down quite a bit, something like, there you go. So now you have this kind of look that this tree is coming, behind you. It gives a little bit of depth even in a 2D environment. And now if we hit play, there we go. Now here's our beautiful scene, and this is what we see. And then you just keep building. You can build whatever you want. But that's sort of the basics of getting images into Unity, 2D images. We did scaling, rotation, and depth. And we also messed around with the camera a little bit, changing the background color. And there's all these different properties that you can play around with. And I encourage you to just start pushing buttons and seeing what happens. Worst case, absolute worst case, you just start over again. And this was 10 minutes of me rambling. And so if you break something, then that's okay. It's only going to take you a minute or two to get back here. So I encourage you to click on all these things, check out projection, size, clipping planes, change all these things on your camera. Make sure you understand what all these things mean with your sprites. And that's it. So that's what I wanted to cover in this one. And that's it.